Now I open the floor for questions, and to lead us off, Mr. Lloyd, you have 6 minutes. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Fox and Mr. Miller, for your testimony. And I want to start by saying thank you for the excellent work that you're doing in our communities. Throughout this committee, the words that you have put forward have been echoed by law enforcement, that we need more investment in community-based approaches, and that we are woefully underfunding community-based approaches to divert at-risk youth from a life of crime, and to get people who are in a life of crime to divert away from a life of crime. What specific measures do you think this committee could recommend that would be most effective for the government to dedicate resources to reduce gun violence, reduce youth in gang activity? Thank you. I guess Ms. Fox, I'll go for you first.
Thank you. So in 2008, as I said, the Roots of Youth Violence report was released after the 2005 Year of the Gun issue we had in the city of Toronto. And outlined in that report is various recommendations that were put out from the provincial government to tackle the youth engage in the violence. So poverty is one of the number one issues, and the rest kind of filtered down in terms of systemic racism. You have the education system, you have the lack of housing. Like anybody who's been to Toronto or Vancouver knows that the cost of living in our cities is unbelievable. It's not, you can't survive in this city unless you're an upper income person. So it's not surprising that we have the level of violence that we have when we are continuing to see the financial gaps grow, and people are just trying to survive. The trauma that is left in these communities, some people that I support have lost more than one family member and friend, like multiple people. They never have a chance to even attempt to heal before another one is taken. So we don't have hardly any services that cater to community violence, which is one of the reasons why I started my organization, because trying to find myself and my children continuous supports was horrible. It was absolutely horrible trying to navigate. And I work in social services. So it's very difficult to find the resources that are culturally specific and that people have the ability to connect with to deal with the trauma that they've been exposed to. You have children who are growing up through all of this trauma, and it's becoming somewhat normal to them, to the point where what would we expect them to do living in this environment?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Maybe I will go to Mr. Miller, but my final quick question, you, Ms. Fox. I mean, clearly there's a potential plan by this government to spend up to $1 billion, perhaps more, to buy back firearms, which we know will be predominantly bought back from legal owners, and which will primarily be long guns, not handguns. Do you think this would have any impact on the youth you're talking about and the people involved in a life of crime? Is this going to have any impact on them? And do you think that $1 billion could be better spent on the programs that you're saying are needed?
Short answer would be no, it would not have any effect at all. Long answer would be that it absolutely infuriates me that the government that is supposed to be acting on our behalf is willing to dump more than $1 billion into a buyback from legal owners, and 250 million that's been promised over the past 6 years that still hasn't been filtered down to the provinces and the municipalities. And $250 million is a drop in the bucket to what the communities across Canada require to do the real work.
Thank you so much. Mr. Miller, thoughts on my first line?
Can you just repeat the question again, please?
Well, I guess we're seeing the youth getting involved in life of crime. Thank you for the work that you've been doing in that. What sort of funding do you think? What sort of specific programs do you think are required that would be most effective at diverting youth from a life of crime, and if they are in a life of crime, getting them out of a life of crime?
From the work that we've been doing, one of the main factor is the employment and the trade. We find that individuals are able to be in a setting where they feel they're given back, but also they're able to provide for themselves. I'll just give you a brief example. We have individuals who are into the trades in the union, and these individuals or young people who comes from the marginalized community are making $37 an hour. So you have an individual who is having a $60,000 a year income starting out. So that there alone itself says a lot. And it gives these individuals a more positive aspect of not, as they would say to me, looking over their back, So that is my first take on it. The next thing is we have to deal with the trauma. We look at incarceration.
Wrap it up, please. Wrap it up in 10 seconds, please, Mr. Miller.
Sure. We have to look at dealing with the trauma that they have gone through. Okay, that plays a big aspect for their actions and their behavior.
Thank you very much.